Hey everybody, I really want to talk to you guys today about regeneration. Specifically, I want to rank all of the regenerations in Doctor Who. The concept of regeneration has allowed the show Doctor Who to continue for 60 years and counting, and it's always a time for the show to adapt and change. Fittingly, no regeneration has really been the same, and they're all unique in some way. For those new to the show, regeneration is a process that the protagonist goes through to save themselves from fatal circumstances. This results in a brand new physical form, allowing the protagonist to be forever recast. Showrunners have often used regenerations as a means to initiate sweeping changes to the show, preventing it from ever becoming a stale formula. As a hardcore fan of the show myself, part of me wishes that the regenerations could be more consistent in order to strengthen the world building. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we have such a variety so that I can discuss their differences and rank them all here. I'll be using the classic tier list method for the ranking, and I'll be going in chronological order, starting with the Doctors, going from the 1st and ending with the 15th, and then after that, I'll start to dive into more of the side regenerations that take place throughout the show. I should also clarify that I'll be discussing the actual regenerations, not the stories themselves that they take place within, so the quality of the episodes as a whole is not a factor here. So with that all being said, let's get into it. The first Doctor's regeneration is the most simple, but that's what makes it special, as it's rather timeless, and it provided the template for all future regenerations to build upon. Since this is the one that started it all, and the effect still holds up to this day, I'm putting it in S tier. The second Doctor's regeneration is noteworthy because despite only being the second instance of regeneration, it's already a special circumstance. What makes it different is the regeneration is a forced punishment that's brought on by the Time Lords, who we are introduced to for the first time in the story. The effect is pretty surreal, and if you didn't know the context, you'd probably be wondering what you're even watching. The real disappointment is that we don't see the actual transition from actors Patrick Troughton to Jon Pertwee. The episode fades to black before Troughton can actually change, and when we see the Doctor again in Spearhead from space, he's already Jon Pertwee. The colorized version of the episode did feature a modern edit of the regeneration that fixes this incongruity, but I'm still going to put the original version of it in C tier. The one thing that stops me from placing it lower is the involvement of the Time Lords in a way that makes them seem frightening, for really the only time. The third Doctor's regeneration is quite the mixed bag. On the one hand, the regeneration effect mirrors the simplicity of the original, and as a result, it creates a sense of continuity that will sadly be short-lived throughout the classic series. On the other hand, who thought that the one thing missing from the regeneration scene was a floating monk with glasses who speaks like a creepy imp? It's the one thing that makes me want to skip this regeneration whenever I'm showing them to non-fans of the show. It's not going to win anyone over into liking the show that way, that's for sure. If it wasn't for the monk, I'd put it in B tier, but because the monk had to be there, I'm placing it in D tier. Now, weird monks aside, it seems like we finally settled into some kind of a formula for the process of regeneration itself, and the visual effect for displaying it. But that's the first and last time we can say that for the classic series. The fourth Doctor's regeneration stands out from all the others, before and after, because it's the only one that involves a second entity who is separate from the Doctor, but also is the Doctor, and then they combine with the Doctor in the moment of regeneration. I think it's an interesting concept, but needed more explanation. Another new addition was a brief montage of this incarnation's friends and foes, flashing by just before the actual regeneration. The effect of the regeneration almost retains continuity with the previous ones, but the second entity that goes in between the Doctors breaks it. I'm placing this one in B tier. The fifth Doctor's regeneration is yet another anomaly, beginning with the fact that the lethality of the poison which kills this incarnation threatens his potential to regenerate at all, to the point where he even says it feels different this time. We get a similar montage of friends and foes to what we saw in the last regeneration. And then we see a brand new regeneration effect, which fills the whole screen with a trademark Doctor Who trippy visual effect, before abruptly cutting to the next incarnation. I think the music and sound design throughout the scene elevates its emotional impact. I'm also placing this one in B tier. The sixth Doctor's is to this day the worst one, and that's because of the extremely poor execution. Due to the nature of how the BBC parted ways with Colin Baker, the actor playing the Sixth Doctor, he refused to return for the Regeneration scene, and I don't blame him, but the production put in the least amount of effort to mask that fact. The Regeneration obscures the Sixth Doctor's face as he's being played by the new actor wearing a cheap wig, just barely matching the previous Doctor's hair. His death is so anticlimactic as it's caused by him hitting his head on the TARDIS console. Then, the regeneration effect itself is a basic transition like the first and thirds, but this time simply going from wig to no wig. I'm placing this one in F tier. The Seventh Doctor is the first one to take place outside of the classic series, taking place in its own TV movie. For the first time ever, Doctor Who had a decent budget, and that trickles down to the regeneration scene. They interestingly decided to go with a Frankenstein analogy through the tone of the scene and some of the shot choices that mirror the original Frankenstein film. The effect itself is a new interpretation of the process, where we see some lightning, which adds to the Frankenstein analogy, and CGI is used to morph the face of the Seventh Doctor into the face of the next incarnation. The morph effect gives off the impression that the bones and underlying structures are twisting and changing into something new. I feel pretty neutral about this one, as I don't love it or hate it, but since it's an interesting interpretation and put in the effort to use both actors again, I'll place it in B tier. Since I'm going in chronological order, I'll be discussing the Ninth Doctor's next. This one is my personal favorite, and I really think it's the best regeneration of all time. It perfectly explains the process for new fans, and the effect is brand new and becomes the new default going forward. Since it sticks around up to the current run of the show, I'll refer to it from here on out as the explosive effect. One particular detail I love about his regeneration is seeing the buzzed hair of the Ninth Doctor grow into the style 10th Doctor's. We've never seen that before or since, and I think it should come back. Since it's so good in and of itself, and it instituted a continuity that's going to this day, I'm placing it in S tier. Next up chronologically is the Master's regeneration from the Series 3 finale. This is the first time in the modern series, and the show as a whole, that we've seen a Time Lord other than the Doctor regenerate. It carries the continuity for the explosive effect, but creates an inverse to the Doctor's. While his regenerations are usually grand and exciting, the Master's feels unnatural and frightening. I like how they were able to keep up continuity with the effect, while making it unique to the character of the Master at the same time. This one belongs in A tier. The 10th Doctor technically had two regenerations, the first one being a bit of a fake out, as the Doctor used something that was set up a couple seasons ago that allowed him to stay unchanged. This one ranks in A tier, as it uses the explosive effect seen with the 9th Doctor and creates an amazing cliffhanger since it happens at the end of part 1 of a 2-part story, and isn't resolved until the beginning of part 2. The second real regeneration is even better, making the explosive effect even more explosive, which ties into how this incarnation was mortally wounded. And the music of the scene is peak Murray Gold, who composed the music for most of the show's revival, from series 1 to 10, and then again for seasons 1 to 2 of the new RTD era. My favorite part about the music is you can hear the musical version of the new Doctor fade in with the on-screen transition, and then fully take over as the new Doctor appears and tries to gain his bearings. The 11th Doctor also technically had two regenerations, with the first one being a fake out as well. I put the fake out in A tier, and the second true regeneration in B tier, as the effect is too abrupt for my liking. The 8th Doctor's appeared in between the two 11th Doctor's regenerations, and this one immediately goes into S tier. An amazing example of the explosive effect, but it also serves to help bridge continuity between the classic and modern series. The War Doctor's goes in B tier, because while it fully bridges the regeneration gaps in the show, it only exists because they weren't able to bring back the 9th Doctor for the 50th anniversary episode in which it takes place in. The 12th Doctor, you guessed it, also had two regenerations, with the first one being another fake out. By this point, the fake out has gotten a bit old and does not work as well as the first two. For that reason, I'm putting it in D tier. The second true regeneration goes in B tier, as it's technically good, but doesn't leave much impact on me. The 13th Doctor's is super colorful and bombastic, and one of the rare instances where a modern regeneration takes place outside of the TARDIS. However, due to regenerating into David Tennant yet again, and also changing his outfit, which canonically makes no sense, I have to put this one in B tier. The 14th Doctor's is something completely new, referred to in the show as bi-generation. I'm really not a fan of the concept, if you can't tell, and I wish we could have gotten an actual regeneration for Ncuti. This one is D tier. The 15th Doctor's is sadly even worse, and could have been fixed with a simple fade to black, but superimposing Billie Piper's face onto Ncuti Gatwa's torso was an all-around bad look for the show. This one has to go in F tier. So now that I've gone through all of the main Doctor regenerations, I would like to discuss all of the other regenerations that we see throughout the show. The child version of River's song is seen regenerating early on in Series 6, but the explanation behind it involves humans gaining the ability through time travel, which makes it unique from all the others. I always had a bit of fan theory that Time Lords also gain their ability to regenerate through prolonged and constant use of time travel. I rank this one in C tier as well. After the child version of River's song regenerates, we also see a slightly older version of her regenerate. At this point, she's known as Melanie, and this one I'll be placing in C tier. The Timelord General, featured in the finale of Series 9, has a regeneration scene, and it's the first Time Lord that we see regenerate that isn't a main protagonist or antagonist. I rank this one in C tier as well. The Timeless Child, as despised an addition as it is, tries to retcon the origin of regeneration. The actual visual effects are fine, but the damage to the lore takes away any of the impact that could have had. This is D tier. The Rani's regeneration goes straight into F tier, as bigeneration is already a concept I don't like, and it somehow looks even worse than the first time we saw the effect. It does not help that no one was clamoring to see the Rani again. The fact that it happens threatens the headcanon and must be forgotten. So that's my ranking for regenerations in Doctor Who. I think the concept of regeneration is super interesting and cool to discuss, and I wish more fictional worlds had some form of it. I also think there's lots of different aspects that you can discuss, which is why I chose to focus in on the regeneration effects for this video. Let me know what your rankings are and what you'd like me to discuss next. I also have a few projects in progress that I plan to get out soon, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Bye.